Can we discuss chimp crazy? Speaking of chimp crazy, I kind of look like a crazy chimp with all this hair right now. It was a shampoo day, so this Miami humidity, it all explodes. It's full of secrets, this hair. It's full of secrets. Okay, so chimp crazy is my latest obsession, and it should be yours as well, and let me tell you why. Chimp crazy, if you haven't heard about it, is 2024's version of Tiger King. It's actually by the same people who created Tiger King. If you remember Tiger King, it was this TV show, Netflix, I believe, phenomenon during the pandemic. Everybody was hooked because it was just so absurd and ridiculous, yet completely real. A completely real analysis, a docuseries about the subculture in American society of people who own tigers. Hence Tiger King, right? Well, chimp crazy is the same idea, the exotic pet industry, but people who own pet chimpanzees. You guessed it, it's an actual business, thriving industry. If you watched Tiger King years ago, back during the pandemic, it's striking how many similarities there are here. That it's the same kind of people in the same kind of places. It's always like Florida or the middle of America in some random town where people own exotic animals that really shouldn't be house pets and are also buying and selling them. Like, it's a huge industry, and it's clearly not a very regulated one. So the show analyzes this while also presenting these kooky characters that you can't make this shit up. Tanya becomes the focal point, the focal character of Chimp Crazy, and she calls herself the Dolly Parton of the exotic pet industry. And much like Dolly Parton, there's something about her that's like campy yet endearing, and you can't tell if she's in on the joke or if she's Delulu or a little bit of both. Every episode was more riveting than the last one. And every episode, just like Tiger King, every episode ends with a crazy cliffhanger where you're like, I can't believe this is real. What happens next? What's absolutely gnarly and fascinating to watch in the show Chimp Crazy is this drama unfolding in real life. Like, in real time, they were able to capture this crazy lawsuit and the insane spin of events. So this is the part of the video, if you actually plan on watching Chimp Crazy, this is the part that you should skip. Spoiler alert, warning, warning, warning. Go to this time in the video if you don't want to know what happens. But if you want the clip notes, you're a businessman or a businesswoman on the go and don't have time to watch this show, I'm going to tell you what happens because it's so crazy. Basically, the woman Tanya, who I mentioned, the Dolly Parton of this chimp world, exotic pet industry, she gets chased by PETA. PETA wins and is able to take all her chimps away because they deem that the chimps are not in a safe environment. PETA takes the chimps away, but of course the day they come to claim the chimps, there's one chimp that's missing, which happens to be her favorite chimp, go figure. And Tanya claims that the chimp is dead and has been dead, so they cremated him. Of course, turns out, oops, she was lying. She lied under oath. She lied to the court. She lied to the judge. That monkey, that chimp, was actually just in her basement. Oops, how did he get there? It feels like the plot of a 90s B movie, like a campy, cult classic type B movie from the 90s, and yet it's all real. It's all real. The takeaway for me with this show, well, there were a few takeaways. One of the takeaways is it's fascinating how there's these subcultures in American society that are so niche and so unusual. And on the surface, it's kooky, it's funny, it's campy, but you realize that there's always the same themes of control and power. The animals are really just a variable, right? Whether it's tigers, whether it's chimps, it doesn't have to be animals. Actually, the element of them being animals makes it seem more innocent in a sense, or like fun-loving, but it could be guns. It could be, these sex cults that they have in the middle of nowhere in the States that go unregulated. Again, there's always the same themes of people seeking power and control to the point where it becomes dangerous to not just themselves, but people around them. And it's kind of a societal thing. All these industries and communities that are unregulated, that are allowed to kind of do their own thing. And they tend to be in states where there's a mindset of that, right? I live in Florida, in Miami, Florida. And Florida is a state considered to have kind of a wild, wild west mindset of like, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a business person, you can get away with a lot for the sake of the American dream of being able to build your own thing without too many roadblocks or too much intervention. So there's a beautiful concept to it in terms of freedom and independence and the pursuit of building something. But at a certain point, you're like, at what price? Like, at what price? At a certain point, freedom, I think, becomes intoxicating. And people who, whether they have the best intentions or there's a lack of self-awareness or lack of accountability, they end up getting away with doing things that they really shouldn't be. And it quickly becomes an unethical territory. Chimp Crazy is extremely entertaining. But I feel like on a bigger level, on a global level, the show does a great job at telling the story of this is much bigger than the exotic pet industry. This is a real problem on a societal level of if there's a lack of regulation, if there's a lack of laws, of forced responsibility and accountability, you're always going to have these shady characters who get away with murder. And in some cases, it's literally murder or close to it. People getting attacked by these animals, or these animals having to be put down because of reckless behavior that, yeah, you can blame it on the animal, but the animal would have never attacked somebody if they weren't in these bizarre, unnatural conditions for an animal. It's almost like parenting. It's like you learn more about a child based on the parent. I feel like it's the same thing with pets. Like you learn more about the owner. The pet's behavior in a lot of ways is actually reflective of the pet owner. And just like parenting, you know, not everybody should be a parent. Not everybody should own pets. And it's fascinating that it's always these people who are drawn to animals in a way that they humanize the animals because they feel more comfortable with animals than with humans, and yet they end up creating they end up humanizing the animals. Does that make sense? It's kind of ironic that they feel more connected to animals, but yet they end up pretending those animals are humans anyway. So for me, that feels awfully close to something that we could call mental illness, to get to a point where you're feeding a chimp fast food or keeping them in a basement. That feels inappropriate at best, but on a legal level, you can do that if you have a chimp that's your pet, right? So again, you go back to this bigger conversation around, you know, at what cost is there for the ultimate freedom of being able to do stuff like this, that it's really only in countries like the United States that you can get away with such outrageous vices, I would say. Have you seen this show? Did I convince you to see it? If you haven't seen it, and if you have seen it, let me know in the comments what you think. I highly recommend it. If you haven't seen it, it's clearly, you can tell I was very entertained and had to share it on this channel, even though I know a lot of you guys don't like when I talk about pop culture stuff. This show has been building momentum, and I think it's going to be bigger over the next few months, because I just couldn't take my eyes off of it. Like, you just can't believe this is real. Catch you guys next time.